Video 4, we're going to be looking at creating masks. So we've uh, probably have seen masks, might understand what to use them for, how to use them. So with this, we're going to be looking at masks. So it's again creating shapes, but for the purpose of using it as a mask. And a mask is just, used as a parameter to modify layer attributes or effects or even properties. And the one thing I'll talk about that we're not really going to look at as much detail until chapter 4 is understanding that color information in After Effects is contained in those three channels, your RGBs, your red, greens, and blues. And even that fourth channel, the alpha channel, which we're going to be looking at a little more with the transparency information. But we're going to look at right now creating your masks and understanding that you can create multiple masks. So I can create one mask on a layer. I can create more than one mask. It just depends on each layer in your composition. So I would say start with creating one mask, understand how to control it, what it can do, and then go from there to create more masks if you want. So to draw a mask, we can use the pen tool if we want, and say I wanted to make sure that the layer that I want to create a mask on is selected. I can start to, and this is just going to be really quick and not to the best, but just want to create a mask around that chapel. So I've kind of cut it out, as you can say. And as you know right now, it cut everything else out because it's created this mask around that image that I wanted to cut out. And I can even, looking down here, I can invert it. So maybe I wanted to cut that out and add something else. So maybe you want to put your picture in there or something like that. But we'll go back to the inverted. So that was one way to do it while creating with the pen tool. So I'm going to delete my mask. And I'm going to come up here and I'm going to create it by creating a shape. And I'm going to use a rectangle. So I'm going to start and I'm going to create this mask. And I'm just going to do inside the chapel. Okay, and we'll kind of try to keep that a little bit, and it's not going to be the best, but I'm going to grab my selection tool, and notice that when I have not double clicked, I can create and move this shape as I want to. If I double click, I again now have control, so I can manipulate the shape if I want, and I can even, with that shift, holding down shift, I can create and make sure that aspect ratio stays the same. So we're going to look at going down and manipulating shapes. And I will talk later on in class about converting a text layer to one or more editable masks. And so you can do things like that with creating masks from text. And then you can find that under your layer down here. So if I were to create a text layer, I could create it to mask. So we'll look at that while in class. But I'm going to come down here. And so right now, I've created this, this layer or this mask. And I might say, okay, what I want to do is I want to come to a second in, and I'm going to make sure I'm going to go ahead and scale it up so that we reveal all of that logo. Okay, so we've got the entire logo created, and the way to reshape your path or to keyframe and animate your path is right here, the mask path. So what I've done is now I've created that keyframe. So if I want to come back to a second, maybe I want to, let's go ahead and animate in, and let me go ahead and move up just a little bit so I can get that top. And maybe we want to kind of start on the cross. So maybe we come up here and we start right on this cross. And so now as I go ahead and play through, it's going to animate that mask on so it kind of reveals as I want to. And again, the one thing that your pacing, so make sure again that I've got both these selected, that holding Alt, I can change that pace. And the one thing that is good for an editor is to find out what works well. And a lot of times something that might look quicker to you probably plays well for the audience. So just remember that. But so we've created a path, and as we create the path, we can also mask or create a little bit of feathering of that mask, the opacity. So maybe I want to say at the very beginning, I want it to be really feathered. So it's kind of, very soft, so to say, as I shoot up to this animate right here, and maybe I'll bring it back down to 0. So that's a way to kind of create on the edges. As notice when I'm here, now we've got that softer edge, so I've feathered the edges. So as it kind of comes on, it feathers on. And it's a little bit like opacity, but opacity works like it will either create, if 0 means the entire thing, let's look at it, is invisible. Okay, so it's transparent. If I go up to 100, but it's creating it as one entire thing, whereas the feather is the outside. So that's a nice way. And so there's different ways to manipulate and control your masks as well. So that's what we're going to look at when creating masks. Now, The nice thing is we'll get into a little bit more when I show you how to, with your lower thirds, kind of reveal things and manipulate your masks, and I'll do that in the next video.